Hey guys, Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a great and prosperous holiday season, and we're into the new year with a bang. So hopefully life's going to do good. Uh, JBK Singer, hello to Columbia, South Carolina, and Happy New Year. Let's see, 2020, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Hoggy 1963, hi there and Happy New Year. Craig, Happy New Year. Okay, hello to South Georgia, Happy New Year. Hardy, hello there. War Donkey, good evening. Marcus, good evening. Bailey's Bears in the house, good evening, brother. Gary Graham, hello there. Well, I hope everybody's had a good Christmas. The missus is in the process of cooking the traditional supper for New Year's Day with black-eyed peas, ham, and etc. So this is only going to be a 1 hour long video because I still got to eat supper. And she's been cooking for the last couple hours, so you know how it is. Especially when she said, "You're not going to be I'm going to be doing my live, honey." Oh, you know when you've been married, that oh sound, yeah. Roller 882, hello there. Oh, you got yourself, Graham. You got yourself a case knife. Awesome. I turned 16, and my granddaddy had a case pocket knife. My daddy had a case pocket knife, although he carried a queen steel one every day in his pocket. And they gave me for my 16th birthday a case pocket knife. I got all three of them put up. But yeah, they're good knives. That was back in the days when the older guys always carried two knives. There was a really good pocket knife that was in the left pocket. And then there was the working, cheaper knockaround knife that went into the right pocket because it was the one you pulled out to do most of your cutting. But whenever it was a serious and had to be a really, really good knife, that's when the case, the old timer, the Uncle Henry, the whatever came out of the pocket was used. Patriot Preacher, good evening. Well, hello to Norway. Hello there. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, cool. Hardy, you got you a bunch of reloading equipment. Awesome. Yeah, Roller, you got to read between the lines. After 30, oh my God, 36, 37 years of marriage, yeah. You got to learn there's a psychic connection you have to learn. Happy New Year, Patriot Preacher. Well, Johnson Island Fishing, hello to Enterprise, Alabama. Could you hear them fireworks last night about midnight? I'm over toward Daleville, and I heard local stuff, but something was going on this side of Enterprise because it sounded like artillery, just boom, boom, boom. Right at midnight. It didn't want one or two; it went on for about 10 minutes. So somebody back down toward the southern part of Enterprise, they had a real booming going on. So, oh, one that you open one-handed, awesome. Well, Norway, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Prepared for Happy New Year. Oh yeah, Roller, you always got to be careful. Yeah, that's the thing. When you figure out eBay exists, it's making sure you know what you're getting. Oh, Johnson Fit. Yeah, I know. I know what it was, but it was big boomers. Like big professional boom, boom, boom. You know, I've heard big explosions in the distance before, and the individuals that live up the hill from me, they'd had a big time. I'd heard AKs cooking off, 357s, the fireworks, artillery shells, and everything else. They'd started about 11 o'clock, and but at midnight they pulled out all the chocks and really did the mad minute. And then, like I said, you could see the clouds lighting up back down toward Enterprise. So I don't know what was going on. I hadn't heard the city was putting on something, but wow. Yeah. Uh, just picked up an Army gas stove. Can't get it to pressurize up. Any idea what I should look for? Yes. Start by taking the pump out, spritzing a little bit of oil down in there. Not a heavy amount, but a little bit onto the actual needle down yonder. Okay. Because there's a needle down there that acts like when you're pumping air up into a tire, that kind of needle. And then the actual skirt on the end of the pump. Make sure it's oiled, kind of don't tear it, but kind of fluff it more open. It looks like an umbrella opening up. And then see if you can get it to catch pressure that way. They make replacement cups. I like the leather ones, but they do make replacement cups. And see if it will take pressure that way. Well, thank you very much, NC 940. I really appreciate that. Bucky 1836, evening, brother. Yeah, St. Louis lit up like Beirut. I hear you. Thoreau, hello to South Carolina. I heard that. Yeah, we got a lot of snow and stuff coming in. We're started warming up. Today it broke into the 60s. Right now it's 49, and they're predicting that Saturday we're going to get that storm front come across us early on. So we should have some thunderstorms early in the morning. Other than that, we're okay. But this is setting up what we see in the deep south, what we call a wet, cold winter. And what that means is you'll have an Arctic blast come in, the temperatures will drop. We'll have a couple of days of real cold, and then it's like you just turn a dial. Temperatures will escalate back up. Moisture will come off the Gulf. It'll warm back up. It will rain, thus the wet. And then immediately behind it, temperatures will plummet like a rock. So you might have 78 degrees and it be 28 that night and it raining, and then it drops like 28. Then you have a couple of days it'll be really cold and dry, and then so it's a cycle. It just keeps repeating over and over. We call it a wet, cold winter because it's cold blast, but wet interburst with it. It's always you're going to get wet, and then it's going to follow cold. So looks like that's what this winter is shaping up to be. DJ234, good evening. Gary Graham, good evening, and Happy New Year. Old wool Mackinaw coats, Woolite is what you're looking for. I have had great coats. I have had, the big old U.S. Navy great coat and everything else. And I've had old World War II and etc. big wool coats. And the way we would clean them was in the bathtub. We would put warm water, not boiling water, just warm water, like bath water. And we would put it in there with Woolite and, surgitate. That's a fancy word meaning to push it underwater up and down and force water to pass through it. Okay, the Woolite will help condition the wool because it is of hair and it does need conditioner. And that's what Woolite does. It keeps it from breaking down and cracking easily. And then once you've rinsed the coat really good and it appears to be good and clean, pop the cap, let the water drain out, turn the water back on, fill it back up with just plain, warm, clean water, surgitate it again, fluff it up and down to get the any soap or whatever out. Drain it the second time, let it sit there, don't wring it, let it, and just kind of hand press down on it, and then let it sit there for maybe an hour, and then take one of them heavy hangers and hook it and pick it up and let any more water drain out of it. We used to just hang it up in the shower. When it gets done dripping, that's when we'd take it out and put it in the sun to dry it out. Yes, this is an elaborate process, but it normally let those coats last a long time. Charles Martin, doing really good. Thanks for asking. Thoreau, Northeast expecting 4 feet of snow. Yep, welcome to winter. I have held some of the World War II German pistols that were in 32 caliber. 32 was a very popular caliber back in the day. Yes, correct. Woolite, cool, warm water, but not hot, not boiling. Just warm water. Rinse it, don't twist it, lay it flat, and you won't distort it. Yeah. We used to do blankets, and we do what we call blocking it. We'd take a 1 foot wide board once the blanket had been washed and it drip dried, and we'd roll it up onto that board. Just, fold until we rolled it up. That way we could pick it up and carry it outside and lay it out on something flat and let it dry in the sun was the best way to do it. Flip it, and you could tell by the weight how wet it was. The lighter it was, the less water it had. And it was a slow process. But that's the reason we didn't wash blankets and wool coats as often as you'd launder other stuff, unless they just got truly filthy. It was a process. But I had a great coat that lasted 15 years. And I really, it never deteriorated. I just had to trade it off to somebody else that wanted it more than me. I loved field jackets. And down here in my country, you don't have that much call for the really, really, really heavy coat. I have a much heavier coat than my field jacket, but I only wear it in the, when we had snow back in January last year was when I got to wear that jacket. So it's just not something, unless it's going to be in the low teens or 20s, I don't wear that big heavy jacket because I'll burn up down here. Yeah, I agree. They put those solvents in them at the dry cleaners, and it smells. So, especially if you're going to use it for a hunting coat, nah. What's my opinion on Rossi 3030s? Are they worth the money? I've got 2 Rossies. One's in 45 Colt, one's in 357. Both of them are very, very good. I have not fired one of the Rossi 3030s, but I know that they have a really good quality control. And I have, like you said, I've seen both ways. Now, when you go to watch a video out there, if they're comparing it to a 3030 Uberti or whatever, you can about bet Uberti's paying for that video, because the Rossies are several $100s cheaper than the Uberti 94 Winchester 3030s. And so therefore, you can tell they're kind of biased which way they're going. But they should be just fine. I mean, I have had no problems with mine in 45 Colt and 357. Is there any inherent problems with the Opinel knife? I hear that the lock is weak on them. If the wood swells up when they get wet. I had one for a time I carried as a pocket knife and every day in the jeans. And if you got wet or you sweated a lot, the wood would actually swell up and grip the blade, and you couldn't hardly open or close it. So that is one possibility depending. Now, what I did to cure that was I took the collar off, tapped out the pin, took the blade out, and sanded in the slot just a little bit, and added a little bit of car wax on a little stick in there. And that cured my problem by sealing the inside of it. That, because the outside of the knife is finished, but down in the groove is quite often not finished. And that allows moisture to swell and contract that wood. So seal it if you can. The trick that a friend of mine did is he took clear fingernail polish and painted down through the little groove and painted it and sealed it that way. But that's the only real weakness I know of it. Yeah, that's true. Justin's their quality control. No, not their quality. Their customer service can be a little spotty. Well, hello, Kent Albert. Good evening, brother. All right, Jesse Mason Outdoors. Hello there. Matt Thompson, good evening. Years ago, I was hearing all this negative comments about this one gun, and it was a whole lot cheaper than its immediate competitor. And it was kind of suspicious to me that all the write-ups I was seeing there, they weren't arguing about the accuracy, they weren't arguing about the reliability, they were arguing about fit and finish and all this stuff, and it really wasn't bad, But it was one of them things where if you didn't want to pay $1,800 for the competitor and you want to pay $600 for this, would you have is pretty good. So I went and bought one. And I competed out to 1,000 yards with that semi-automatic 308 caliber rifle. And the guys around me looked down their nose at me because they had all these Springfields and stuff, and mine was not. But it competed, and it did really, really well. So I always take with a grain of salt when I trust opinions of many people, but I also make my own decisions. And so I want to try it out and see, because there is such thing as good enough. Yes, it is not but at the same time, does it do the job? What's the focus of it? Not everybody has to have a $300,000, Ferrari. You can do the Chevy. There is such thing as good enough. Just depends on what you're doing. Matt Thompson, good evening. Marvin Carpenter, good evening. John Turner, thank you. Cool, Charles Martin. Watching your cap and ball series makes me want to get one. I went out today and shot the my 1861 Stormborn Navy in 36 with the arrows gone actual Colt type bullet, and it did really, really well. I went out and did a test with it because Stormborn really likes conicals. I mean, that's Pieta 61 Navy. I had been shooting the Richmond, and Richmonds are a bear to load, but the Colt loaded a whole lot easier. And that first group that I shot with my poor eyes in the failing light, palm of a hand would easily cover it. An Oreo would probably cover it with a little bit of a jiggling around, And so when I went up in a little bit of power level, my group got a little bigger. You're going to see this video here pretty soon. But the thing is, it was because of my eyes. I couldn't see my front sight in the failing light. And when you got the front sight and you got find where I'm at here. Okay. You got the front sight there, and you can't see whether the front sight's to this side or this side. It doesn't want to work right. Am I touching the right side or not? Am I touching the left side? Am I in the center? And I just made a string of shots, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Had they all been centered up, it'd have been almost touching group. But I couldn't see my front and side anymore, left or right. So, like he's old. So, I'll go out on a better day with better light and plink with it some more. Yes, Hippo, that's the thing. Finding a balance between good enough and quality, when we're talking price, those are the three things we got to work around. You know, and it's like, well, reloading equipment. I view reloading equipment like my grandfather taught me with tools. When I turned 16, he took me to the pawn shop and got me a set of tools. He went through all the sockets they had for sale at the pawn shop, and he said you need a good half inch, a 9/16, a 7/16, 5/8. You need a good wrench, one open end, and a box end combinations if you can get them for those. Now that 11/16 and that 7/8 and that little bitty 3/8 and all like that, you can do with a cheaper quality tool. So those at that time Chinese sockets go with it. If you break a tool, you always replace it with a better quality tool than the one you broke, because that way in the long run it'll work. And I still got most of that set 60 years later. 50 years later, I still got it. And when I was looking at my reloading equipment, it was the same way. If I'm doing something like 9mm and I'm shooting a lot of competition, yeah, I want a die setup and everything that allows me to do a lot of ammo fairly quickly. Because my time, I don't have that much time that I can set aside to generate it. So I want good quality ammo, relatively quick, relatively easily, because I'm shooting high volume in this 9mm caliber. On the flip side of that, I'm probably going to load a box, 20 rounds of 30-06, and that box will last me 2 to 3 years of hunting. I want good quality ammo, but so I'm not going to buy a big progressive, all that stuff for that 30-06. I can do with a $20 set of dies that does good work. But when I'm shooting 1,000 rounds of 9 a month, I need higher production. So you got a good enough, where you at. Okay, hello there. Let me catch back up. Oh, well, hello to Iceland and Happy New Year. Marcus, is the 3855 good for deer? Yes, it is very good. The 3030 is based on the 3855 performance. So, yes, it does really, really good. Jeff, 3569, Happy New Year. Okay. Blackie, would the curve bullet be a good conical for Griswold and Gunderson 36? Yes. The curve bullet really does work well. And I've got the curve 44, and I believe it's 44 that I've shot, and works really well. So any of that Kerr design size, yeah. All those bullets that Mark makes he's really thought them out. And the only one that I would kind of would be the Richmond, because they're just so difficult to load. And I've spoken on camera what I think the South was really doing. They were trying to use wore out guns. And so they made the projectile way oversized to make it force fit. And what came out of the barrel after you loaded it was basically a flat slug. It looked like a 38 wad cutter, so forget what it looks like when you go to load it. What it really fires out is just a slug of it. And so, but the Kerrs load easily and really work with the guns that have clearance problems a lot better too. Yeah, Winchester does make a PowerPoint in 3855. They made a lot of Winchester 94s in 3855. Oh, cool. Throw, you got you a 3-ton power puller. Cool. Hello to Daytona Beach. Jimmy Dunlap, good evening. Ah, I got you. Yeah, a 36 curve would be pretty cool. I'm hoping, um, I'm going to talk to Mark. I'm hoping to go on a road trip and go up and maybe interview and talk to Mark a little bit on camera and us talk about historic bullets and percussion, etc. So I'm hoping now. I'm gonna throw it out there. We had talked at one time about getting together and doing a camp out and doing some shooting and talking, and it just hadn't worked out. He was in the process of retiring at that time, but that was a while back, and we're both done with retiring. So I'll give him a holler and see if he would like us to get together and maybe sit and talk. Blackie, what do you think of the Coleman backpack? To be honest, I haven't seen it, or if I have it, it isn't ringing a bell. Striker 176. Happy New Year. Kenneth, thank you very much. Coleman usually takes a proven design and they put their name on it. So Coleman gear, as far as that, if you see like a Coleman backpack or a Coleman this or Coleman that, it's usually somebody else's design that proven, and Coleman is getting their name license on it. Kind of like Walmart. Walmart doesn't produce they produce very little, but what they do is they take somebody else's stuff and they brand it to them. So I'm pretty sure Coleman would not be putting their name on it unless it is something that's pretty rugged and reliable. Kenneth, thank you very much, and blessings to you and your family as well. After 2025 was kind of a testing, because in the end of 2024 is when I had the stroke, and there was a real mental question on my part on whether or not, because I was blessed and just lucky to survive. I mean, everything indicated that should have been the end of Blackie right there, or that I would have just been a vegetable. Um, and somehow, through the grace of God, I made it through that. But 2025, the first third of it to almost the first half of it, I was really trying to get back on my feet, so to speak, of recovering from that. And so I had to be kind of leery about being away from where I could get medical attention, because if I had another stroke hit, you're talking minutes. For the first several months there, they didn't want me more than 45 minutes from the hospital that I have to go to. He said, he let me out, but he said, I want you here. If you even get a nosebleed or you get a hiccup, I want you here. And over time, we firmed back up. We got in better. So 2025 was a real learning curve year for me in a lot of ways. Of could I still do this? Could I keep going? And it really turned the corner for me. And so thus far, God willing, knock on wood, we're doing pretty good. And so we're making headway again. So my, New Year's resolution, I'm planning on going more camping and doing some fishing and doing a little hunting and stuff like that. Things that I've let slip out of the way because I was more interested in other things. So you're going to be seeing more of those videos popping up. I'm learning how to. I got a new phone because my old phone just decided in the end of December we're not working anymore. And so, which it was an old phone, okay. Yeah, and but now I'm learning how to do videos on my phone, and it's got a lot better camera than my camera. So it's a learning curve. We're gonna have old dog got to learn some new tricks. Now let's see where we at. Excuse me, Ricky. Happy New Year, uh, and to the guys in Resca, Georgia. Awesome. Okay, South Carolina woodsman. The sitting fox that's in the circle. That guy's name. He's been dead for God knows how many years, but it was Northwest Trade Guns. I believe was the original name. And back in the 80s, and he this is not the correct name, but like Morris Kachansky, it was a Polish name. I can still see the guy. He's in the muzzleloader magazines, and I probably over there in one of the books of buck skinning, I've got a picture of him. But he had the Sitting Fox was his company, and I know he passed on the company to somebody else before he died, but I haven't heard a lot of them. So if you found an old one, that's where that came from, the Sitting Fox. And it was mostly trade guns, stuff like that. And his canoe gun was a short blanket gun. I remember those. And I will try whenever I'm not on camera to go over and dig through the library and see if I can find that guy's picture and maybe earmark it for next week. And now, will I be here next week? I may not be doing a live next Thursday night because I may be going on a road trip to do some outdoor stuff on a new super secret squirrel base in North Alabama. We shall see. But we'll get more of that a little bit later. Video to follow. But I'll see what else I can do. Yeah, cut down Northwest Trade Gun. Yep, I'm familiar with it. Yes, Ken Albridge. I had my stroke in November the 11th of 2024. So it's been a little over a year. Striker, I will be going my gathering, and I've just made the video, and it was supposed to post today. My gathering, I'll get it out in a minute, guys. My gathering is going to be March 23rd through the 29th at Geneva State Forest. I've been invited to go to Pathfinder. I just haven't got the details of it yet. So, and a big part of me going to Pathfinder is I normally go and work for my niece, Trinity, whenever she's there. And so if she's going, that's a big insult. And Dave and them have asked me to come to it. So I'm thinking about it. Okay. If I decide to go, I will let everybody know. It's just, do I want to go? It's not that I don't want to go up there. I don't want to see the people. I like the people, I like everybody up there. It's just, it's a long road trip. And, Blackie's getting up in years, and these long 12, 14, 16 hours in a day road trip is getting kind of old at times. So we shall see. Dog bite, freezing cold, upstate New York. Hope y'all stay warm tonight. Oh boy. Crossover Paranormal Society. Hello there. When I look, a lot of people have names like that. When I look at them letters start running together, and it's just like you're sitting there trying to translate what you're seeing. Oh boy. Bear's telling me to tell the story of the cut down trade gun at the Whitewater Long Hunters. I ended up with a Thule to Chase that had been cut down, because one of the members up there, and you got to understand, the Whitewater Long Hunters was a Black Powder Club at near Troy, Alabama, and these boys could shoot. I mean, they were serious on their shooting and their partying. And I remember when somebody who had placed in the top 10 in the United States in muzzleloading shooting at Friendship, Indiana, came to Whitewater, and he didn't even put in the top 25. These guys were out shooting left, right, and center, and he was going, "Why don't y'all come to Friendship?" And they go, "Why don't you just come to Whitewater?" You know, those guys could shoot. Well, this individual had this trade gun, the Thule to Chase, and he got to working out that if you cut the barrel down, there was a certain magic length of barrel that certain powder charge would equal to and you would improve accuracy. So he started cutting off that barrel 1 inch at the time. And these things are like a 42-inch barrel. He'd got down to a 31-inch barrel whenever he finally decided that he wanted to sell the gun. I ended up with that gun. And it was a very accurate gun. But it looked kind of like in length, it was kind of like the length of a Chief's gun by that point. But he just kept cutting 1 inch off and shooting 1 inch off and shooting 1 inch off and shooting over a period of weeks, you know, and he kept getting more and more accurate. And then it's like he went beyond the magic. And so he went, I don't want it anymore. And I ended up with it for a good price. And it was so light, you'd go to aim with it and the thing was just like air. And so we had a heavy bronze grounding rod, became the ramrod to add weight back to the barrel to make it hang right to shoot. And it didn't have a rear sight, but the rear tang screw turned up and it lined the slot up perfectly. That if you put your face down on the cheek, everything, you'd have that line right there, and used it like a rear sight. And I would shoot that thing out to 75, 80, 100 yards. And them boys, they shoot smoothbore out to 100 yards. You know, there is no rifling. It's a shotgun. And these guys are shooting groups like this at 100 yards with a 62 caliber smoothbore. So, yeah, you ought to. Good days at Whitewater. Oh, boy. Happy New Year. I'm having trouble sharpening my hook knife. Any tips? Go get you some 800 grit, 1,000 grit, a 2,000 something grit, and a 3,000 something grit wet sandpaper, wet sanding paper from an auto parts store. This is for sanding paint. Okay. You can wrap it around, glue it if you want to, but wrap it around a wooden dowel and use it to go inside the curve and sharpen a hook knife easier, because you've got the hook, and that way you can go on the inside and put it and pull it to you in nice long strokes and go up in grade as it gets sharper and sharper, and it will shine it up, it will polish it. Now, understand what I'm about to tell you, and this goes to all you people out there as well. There is a difference between a sharpened edge, a honed edge, and a polished edge. Okay? Sharpened edge, you take standard stone, you sharpen it up, everything, it cuts beautifully. It's sharp. Honed edge, you've stropped it and etc., and it's got a little sharper and there's less resistance. It cuts better. A polished edge, I mean, it looks like a mirror. You don't feel that thing cutting you. I mean, you make a polished edge on a knife, it's almost fragile. But I'm here to tell you, when you just no hardly any pressure and it just cuts like glass. Don't play with one of those. You notice that Blackie doesn't carry polished edge. I have knives with a polished edge, but my knives I use in day to day are honed edges, really good and sharp. They do well, but a polished edge is like a scalpel. And if you just bump it into you, you went to bone before you even know it. My good friend Scab, who's a big knife guy, he's got Choir Boys channel, and he picked up and was looking out of one of William Collins's knife, and we'd done warned him that William will polish an edge. He will make a sharp edge. And all he did was when we pulled it out of the sheath, kind of did like that, and it popped out of the sheath, and he just lightly bumped himself. And I'm sitting across circle. Went, it bit you. He went, no, it didn't. It bit you. No, it didn't. Did like that. And then he saw the blood. He didn't even feel it. And it'd gone all the way to bone. You know, it took like 3 stitches to sew him up. A polished edge. So when you're sharpening something, understand if you get to where you can see your reflection in that edge, less and less resistance, better for cutting. Be very careful. Okay, I'll get off my box now. Okay. Okay, you're in Bath, New York. Cool. Blackie, wife got you a 20 gauge reloader for Christmas. Ooh. Mid-South Supply. I've got a lot of stuff over them from the years. And there's something like Grass or Graft, something like that. And Sons, they're considered the big shotgun place to get shotgun components. But that's about the 2 things I've used in the past. I'm sorry I can't give you any more detail than that. Common Sense Karen. Yep, I'm on tonight. Happy New Year. We're getting it off with a bang. We're starting it out. We're going to have a good year. Yeah. Like Bear says, just ask Scab. He tells that story. Yeah. Charles Martin. I had a big Tremoa Bowie back when I was in high school. And I had polished that edge. And my blood brother, Mark, went to hand me the knife. And I just took the knife. That was it. I grabbed a hold of it. And when Mark went to move his hand away, that part of his thumb right there hit the edge. And a flap, the entire pad of his thumb just folded up. I mean, it's like you just cut straight down the bone and went that far up. The only thing holding it onto his thumb was the skin up under the fingernail right there. He did like that, and he looked, and I said, "What?" And I didn't move the knife. I just grabbed a hold of the knife, and he's moving his hand away when he did it. He bumped the blade, not me, and it went all the way to bone. I mean, he could do like that, and his thumb would flip up, and it'd flip back down. And I had polished that edge, so that's one of my learning curves. The funny thing is, it didn't go to bleeding for about a full minute. I had time to get some bandage on it and told him to hold pressure on it like that. We're going to the ER. Don't sit there and play with it in case you cut something important. Hold it still, okay? And by the time we got to the ER, he had blood dripping out of his hand. But it probably took a minute to start bleeding. Blackie, what do you think about the new knife Walmart carries? It's called a Swiss Tech. Some of the Swiss Tech stuff was actually kind of decent in the past. I have not handled or used the one you're talking about. But in the not horrible long ago past, I have done some Swiss Tech stuff with friends had them and found them to be pretty good. I have not handled that knife though. Grafton Son, thank you. Natchez, Mississippi. There you go. Okay, what do you call one of the drill bits with the plug cutter? Hole saw. Round little thing, hole saw, because it drills a cutout cookie hole. 117 Rebel. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you. I'm doing really well, sir. I will. I'll try to keep my powder dry. Same to you. Yeah, primers are finally starting to come down. Things are starting to show back up in places. Um, we're in the middle of a big transition. Businesses, industries, all kinds of stuff moving around, and so it's just going to take a little bit of transition. But hopefully, by the end of this year, a lot of ammo that's been a little scarce will be back. Primers will be back, things like that. Because when there's a war on, and remember we were supplying a lot of stuff overseas to Ukraine and everything else, why would your manufacturer want to make stuff for us when you can make government contract stuff to ship overseas for military primers and etc.? And so it's only when all of that stuff quiets down do they start flooding the U.S. market with here's primers, here's all the shotgun primers, here's percussion caps, etc. As long as there's a war on, they're busy sending it somewhere else and making the money. Charles Martin, it's surprising a sharp edge, you really don't feel the pain. It severs the nerve so cleanly, so quickly, that it kind of shocks the nerve, and the nerve goes like, what? And really doesn't react fast enough. It's only after the nerve has had a moment or two to realize it broke that it actually starts thumping. Mike's Life. Hey, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you too. Oh, the bushcraft drill with the plug cutter. T-handle, you put a oh, the augers. Yeah. Augers. Pathfinder SRO sold them at one time, both the auger and the ring cutter, like you're talking about. One bored the hole, and the other end actually cut the tenon to go into that hole. But they make them, and I know that Sportsman's Guide has had them from time to time as well, coming out of Italy. So, what do you think about polishing the triggers on your firearm? If you're doing it for long range, actually, it is a very real plus. Having a very smooth trigger that doesn't drag any on the finger is good, and polishing your contact points for the sear so that it breaks super smooth and clean, really good for long range. Actually, not that good for a reliable hunting gun because it's too easy for it to slip. And it's not a hair trigger, but it makes it too easy to trip accidentally, sliding your finger into the trigger guard when you can bump it, etc. I had a long range target rifle that I used when I was doing the up to 1,000 yards, and it was 2 ounces was the set pressure because it was final touch and it was gone. That gun didn't go hunting with me because if it did, the safety stayed on until I'm looking at the deer, because when I flip that safety off, it's just a touch and it's gone. And so polishing the internals, much better for long range accuracy, but not necessarily better for hunting because it causes too sudden a let off, too quick, too easy a let off. So you just got to remember that balance of what's good enough. If you think your trigger pull is too high and it's affecting your accuracy because you're having to fight that trigger, yeah, definitely. Trigger pull too light can also be a detriment because you'll go off before you're planning on it. And I had a good friend of mine that he tried to use his target rifle, and twice, he's looking at the deer and he's lining it up and he shot right over the deer's back because he put his finger on the trigger and he's paying attention to the deer on scope, not that trigger. Poof. And he piled up a shot by shooting over his back because he hadn't got the sights where he wanted yet. So it's one of them good enough things. Old Man of the Forest, hello and Happy New Year. Scotch auger, correct, Matt Thompson. Amazon has them good. Thank you, Justin. Fishing golf. Well, hello to Illinois. 18 degrees up there. Awesome. Hope y'all have a wonderful year. Mike's Life. Awesome. A good pellet rifle, can be a very viable tool for taking small game, especially if you're in, fairly close range. Patriot Preacher, it's 15 in Ohio. Jeremy, what's up, Blackie? Doing good, and Happy New Year to you. Whoa, 32 degrees in Newfoundland. Wow, you're warmer up there. It's saying it's 47 here right now in Alabama, and which is good. It's January. I expect cool temperatures, and this is the time I love to get out and do stuff. And I've been going out and doing little things, but now that we're done with the holidays, I've got about 8 to 10 weeks of good weather to get out and do stuff in the winter camp idea before it starts warming back up. Because one thing about a wet, cold winter, it ends like that. Usually in late February or early March, it's like you flip a switch and it's 70-degree days and nights get down like 48. And so if you're going to do something in the winter, got to do it now. Blackie, I got an M65 field jacket. Was wondering any way to waterproof it. Yes, you can get the spray silicone. Go look in the camping department, like at Walmart, around where the tents are, and there'll be these cans of spray of silicone waterproofing. And you can waterproof a jacket outside only. Just do the outside edge, outside coating, and make it where it'll bead water just like a rain jacket. But disadvantage, it don't breathe that well. So like a raincoat, if you're wanting to do something for work, make sure it's a loose fitting jacket where you can breathe a little bit, because if it's a tight fitting jacket, you're going to sweat in it because it don't breathe, and you're going to perspire if you're working. You got to vent. Be good about venting. But if you're wanting something up in snow country or whatever and want to keep the jacket from getting wet, that spray silicone's the way to go. Follow the directions on it. What I've done in the past was do it, let it air, completely dry, and then come back and do another. Light coats are better than a heavy coat. And because light coats actually sink into the material and stay with it. Heavy coat gets on the top and you can peel it off. So light coats. Mist it down good like you're putting hairspray on. Let it dry. Give it 24 hours. Do it again. About 1 can is enough usually to make it where it be water. What do you think about fishnet layers for cold weather? They do trap warm air close to your body. As long as you've got a good layer above it, I would think like a silk layer, then a fishnet layer, and then another layer on top of that would be a good idea. What is your thoughts on the Queen Anne locks on muzzleloaders? What is it on the Sitting Fox canoe gun? The Sitting Fox canoe gun usually had a standard trade gun, like a Northwest trade gun lock on it. And there was a Queen Anne lock, but the one that's on Northwest Trade Guns is not that lock. They're very rugged, very reliable. They use a pretty good size flint and work usually really well. That big O trigger was for you to be able to wear gloves or mittens. Gloves were kind of a more money item. Back in the day, it was far easier to make mittens than it was to make gloves. And so most of the people in cold country was using mittens, and that's reading that big old trigger guard on them. So the canoe gun is just a short version of that. And another thing that, from a history point of view, when you find a gunsmith, archaeologically, you find a gunsmith, you find about these, it looks like wedding rings, but they're about anywhere from a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch wide. And that's where the trade guns of them loading and ramming the ball and the tight round ball with a thin patch, because a lot of the guys in real life up there didn't have cloth. They were using thin leather, like squirrel and rabbit leather, as patching on them guns. And it would kind of bulge the end of the barrel, and accuracy got kind of wonky. So the gunsmiths would cut the end of the barrel off to freshen the barrel. See? And that's how a lot of them canoe guns started out as a long gun. They just kept shortening it and shortening it and shortening it till they got to the point they chopped the stock off and made it into a night gun, a canoe gun, or blanket gun, etc. And that was just a gun that maybe it got damaged. Maybe somebody fell on it, stepped on it, and squished the barrel flat. They could cut it off and use it as a gun that way. Make sure that is she who must be obeyed might be letting me know supper's ready. Okay. We got about 5 minutes, and I'm going to have to run for supper because it's New Year's, you know. Okay. Blackie, I have an SOL escape bivy, and it's awesome that I feel I'm so awesome I filled the whole thing up. Any ideas for use 20 to 30 degrees? You need to use that with a big pile of debris around you. Use it to, what I suggest you do is create a good deep leaf bed, dry as you can get. If you can, take and lay down like long poles on either side and just drive stakes on the far side to keep it from rolling away from you. Pack in between, heavy with leaves, pine straw, whatever. You want about 1 hand thickness. Okay. Then you put that bag on top, and then you want to pile as much leaf litter and stuff. Make a big mound. Okay. Then take, big tree branches, bushy tops, and stick in and lean into it to hold that on top. When it gets to be bedtime, open up and wiggle your feet in and wiggle into it so it surrounds you. And one of those can be used down to much lower, but not by itself. You need additional insulation. There is no little bitty gossamer thing that will keep you alive in every condition. It will reflect a lot of your body heat, but you're still got contact with the ground. So you need to break that contact. You don't want to be in the wind, and you don't want to be on a slab of something like a rock. I've got to insulate myself as many ways as I can. Even in severe enough conditions, snow is preferred to out in the open air because the snow is going to be 32 degrees and it might be 28 below in the air. See? So insulate yourself with that. That's the inner layer. Think of it as the inner lining of whatever you're going to create. And that should be a bigger help. Black-eyed peas and hog jowls. Actually, we're doing ham, black-eyed peas, stuffing, cornbread, and turnips with turnip root. Okay, you're going to buy one of the Swiss Techs. Cool. Let me know how it works out. Snow trench works wonders. Yeah, get down below that wind. Wind is a killer. Yes, Hippo, I saw that. Dave's doing a really good series right now. A couple of years ago, I did a series on staying warm in winter, and I did several videos in that about how to stay warm in leaves, how to stay warm if you got nothing but a poncho, how to stay warm on a ground bed, how to stay warm on a cot, and etc. How to stay warm in a hammock. So Dave's doing a really good job of that. Well, guys, I'm going to call it quits there. Thank y'all so much. And Happy New Year to you. I hope your year goes really, really well. And I hope we're all here next year to celebrate 2027. Please leave any comments you want to do. I'll go back and read them. But right now, I got supper waiting on me. And as it stands now, I will not be on next Thursday night because I'll be on a road trip. But I may post something. So keep your eyes open. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Happy New Year, guys.